This video is brought to you by Sporlan, quality, integrity, and tradition. So we've got a reach-in freezer today that is not working. Customer says it wasn't maintaining temp. First thing we notice is it's all frozen up inside. So we should never see ice like that on a little reach-in freezer. That's a problem. So we're gonna take this into the back to a place where water can drain, because we're out in their dining room right now. This is like a freezer that's out in the dining room, and there's no drains on the floor out here. So if we try to de-ice this out here, we're just gonna make a mess that's gonna be a pain to clean up. This is a little 27-inch reach-in. We can easily push this into the back of their kitchen where they have floor drains everywhere. So that's what we're gonna do. All right, we gotta get this cover taken off. I've never worked on this reach-in, so we'll have to play with it a bit. We'll get this cover taken off and then try to chip off some of the ice right here. Obviously, when I say chip, that word is a dangerous word because you don't want to break anything, but we'll very carefully break the ice free from the screws that look like it hold it on. And then we'll probably have to take this off because there's a sensor strapped to it. We got to get this off so we can access the evaporator coil behind it. So I just kind of very carefully knocked off the ice. I realized there was a bunch more 1/4-inch screws, which I do find to be funny, because why put 4 Phillips and then 4 1/4-inch screws? Like, why not do all the same screws? That's like one of my pet peeves. But all right, we got this apart, and then now if we can get this pin out, I gotta get the sensor off, then we can get this out and access the evaporator coil. I can't say I've ever seen something like that before. It looks like the drain plugged up or something at one point, and the ice started to build. And you can tell when you look at ice patterns, there's a lot about ice patterns. You can tell that this has been thawing and refreezing because it's soft and it's rounded. So like, it goes into defrost, the warm water drips down, melts the ice, but then it refreezes. So it's all soft and rounded. Like, ice tells you a lot. But notice that it's not iced up for the most part on the evaporator coil. It's just everything underneath and down below it. That's very interesting. So to me, the defrost is doing its job, but the water has nowhere to go. So I bet you we'll find out that this drain is like a slow drain, maybe? That's really interesting. Unless there's something more going on here that I've never seen before. Very interesting though. You know, you don't want to do this unless you really know what you're doing, but I'm carefully kind of chipping away, because the more I break off, the less gets on the ground that if I have to melt it with hot water. So I'm just kind of breaking the big chunks out if I can, and we have, you know, the least amount of mess for the customer as possible. Even though I'm over a drain, I'd rather not make a mess if I don't have to. Plus, this is going to take a ton of water, and if I could just break it up. But you just got to be careful, because we don't want to hit the coil or anything, you know? Got to be very, very careful. I don't know why this happened, but you just start using deductive reasoning. We know that the ice can't be there, so we need to get rid of it. As we're getting rid of it, we are going to have to use some water. When I use the water, we're gonna look and see what happens in the drain. But you just gotta get this off first and then move forward. It's not like I look at this and I know exactly why it's doing that. We just gotta start removing what we know is not right, and then try to backwards figure out what is going on here. But obviously paying attention the whole time, observing and thinking, you know, just mental note, like it was iced up, that was kind of odd, you know, take pictures and then work your way through the process and try to figure out what caused this. Back here, we're just looking, we gotta find the drain. Looks like the drain's going to the front of the box on this. We've also got a plugged up condenser, lack of maintenance. So, and look, the temp control is maxed out as cold as it'll go. So this has been a problem. Someone's been cranking on this thing. Typically these things are set for about 3 or 4, never maxed out. Okay, but we need to get to wherever the drain's at. So we might have to take like some screws out to get this condenser to slide. And it looks like maybe the drain's going into the front, because there's a hose right there up top, this plastic hose right here. It's coming down and going into a drain pan. So the question is this unit draining? This is interesting. You also got to be careful on these boxes, because they put a digital temperature controller right here on the other side of this, and sometimes like a mass amount of water up top will leak down into the control. That can be a problem too. 2 screws, this kind of pulled out of the way so that way we don't potentially, there's not really too much that's gonna leak on it, but still. All right, well, we need to get the front off so we can see the drain. I wanna see it before, because rather than just put water down it, I want to see if there's anything obstructing it. So down here, pull this off. Look at that. That's nice. That's all hair. That's gross. All right, so in here, that's the condenser inlet, and in here is the drain pan. So we should be able to see the drain from in here. Wait a minute. Where is the drain hose is not going into the drain pan. It's going on the back side of the drain pan, draining out behind the box. I wonder if it's like restricted. So again, this is the point. So this hose on the other side of this is not going into the pan. So look, this pan came right out, and the hose is going back behind it. And now, just be able to kind of get in here into the sides. Actually, it's mostly defrosted. You can see it's just kind of air coming out at the moment. Why though? You know what? I wonder if this thing, it should be pushing water out. It should be a dip tube though. I wonder if the dip tube came off because it's just blowing air. That's odd. We're troubleshooting my own tools now. So I took this off and the dip tube is off to the side in there. So now I gotta get that dip tube out. All right, now we should have water coming out of this thing. But at this point, there's really not any ice, maybe just in this corner over here, just a little bit. So you want to get as much ice out as possible, and then we're going to pay attention to how it's draining. Looks like it's draining fine, right down into there. This is really odd. I'll check it. I'm going to get a little more water on it, and then we'll check the drain down here and make sure we're filling up. It's draining, but something that I noticed is, it's kind of hard for you guys to see, but this drain has a U-bend on it. It has a fitting at the end that's like a U-bend. I can't really get it to focus very well for you guys. It has a U-bend, and the U-bend creates a kind of a P-trap. So water always sits in the bottom of the drain. And without that P-trap, hot air could come in the bottom of the drain and go straight up. And that's kind of what I wonder is going on here. Is if warm air was coming in and causing the ice issues. It's very interesting. I think that's what's going on here though, because the drain was on the wrong side of that pan and it didn't have its trap activated because it was facing the wrong direction. It possibly caused warm air. That's the only thing I could think of. You know, oftentimes you just got to work your way through these problems and just think like, what's not right? Like, I don't know what caused this, but I got to look and see, okay, the ice wasn't right. We got rid of that. And then we're looking at the drain, like what's working, what's not working. Like that's how you gotta work through these problems. We know how to dirty condenser too. This is how I can best explain this. If you look at this door is not shutting, okay? This door is not shutting, and we have ice buildup all around the door, and we have ice buildup all inside the freezer, all right here, all right here. And that's because the door is not shutting. The warm air from inside the walk-in cooler is making its way in, the cold air is escaping, and it's freezing, okay? And causing that. So what I think happened is because that drain on that reach-in cooler doesn't have the P-trap in it, that warm air is coming up the drain line and causing the frost to build up, but the defrost is taking care of it on the coil, but it can't defrost anything below the coil. So it's kind of like someone leaving a door open like this one. This door, they actually brought this to my attention. This door doesn't shut, so we need to get new hinges on it, but it's causing all this ice inside this box, and the customer, you know, so the same thing in theory is happening on that reach-in cooler, I think. So this drain fitting needs to sit just like that in the drain pan because it creates a P-trap kind of. So that way water will always be in there and hot air can't go up the drain, but that needs to be over the drain pan too. And the problem was it wasn't over the drain pan and it was shoved sideways, allowing that hot air to come up, and that's why it was freezing underneath the evaporator coil. I ended up having to pull the condenser out to get the drain in the right position again, but then when I went to push it in, the condenser wouldn't fit. It's got to line up these two little screw holes, one right there, one right there. For some reason it wouldn't. When something is difficult, especially since I had just done it and it was easy, you got to stop and think instead of shoving and getting pissed. I pulled the condenser out and there was actually a screw. I didn't take this out, but there was a screw back behind there. So think, don't just like break things. And you know, if something's difficult for the most part in this industry, you're probably doing something wrong, right? There's probably an easy way. So stop, take a break, breathe, think about it, and reassess, and then go back in there. Okay, I don't know if it'll come up on camera or not, but see, the drain has a P-trap built into it now, a U-bend. Oh, you see that? There's a hose clamp there. That's where the screw came from. That screw must have come out for some reason, and there's a hose clamp on the drain line, and that's why the drain line is out. Somewhere along the lines, there's a screw that came out and caused the hose to go to the wrong side and caused the hose clamp, and that was the screw that was getting stuck on my condenser. Unfortunately, we're not going to get that screw back in because it was hard enough to even get my hand back there behind the condenser with everything attached. Don't know how that came out. I don't know, maybe it was loose from shipping or something. This unit's probably, if I had to guess, a year or two old, but for whatever reason, but it'll be fine now. You got to pay attention when you pull condensing units out, because in theory, if someone pulls out the condenser or someone gets under here and pulls out the drain pan from the front and doesn't necessarily get the drain hose back in the drain pan, then we're just going to run into the same problem. So I wish I could get back there, but really, in reality, that condenser has to come out for me to be able to get back there with a screwdriver to get that screw in to hold the hose in place. So it'll be fine as long as people just pay attention. You know, this is just a manufacturing flaw, really. I do have to say one thing, as we're getting this put back, there was a little bit of ice still back there, so I had to get it out because you don't want to leave any ice in here. So we got all the ice out, and then as I'm putting this back on, the shelf clips are falling off. I was trying not to, but they do. One thing that I don't like that True is doing here is they're not putting numbers on their shelf standard. This is called a standard and this is a shelf clip. And other manufacturers have numbers, so it makes it easier to set the height of the shelf clip. Without that, you just got to kind of eyeball it and hope that you got it at the right spot. I think I did. And then we got to get this one back on and then we'll go from there. As we're putting it back together, you need to pay attention to the sensors and also the screws. You know, obviously don't tighten all these until you get everything in because the cover might have to shift. This is the air temperature sensor, and then this right up here was the evaporator temperature sensor. So it fit right down into a hole in the evaporator, but then it also holds this cover on. So pay attention to how you take things apart. All right, we're all back together. The casters aren't bad. There's just leveling legs on the front. We thought maybe the casters were bad, but the next thing is, does the door shut all by itself? The most critical, so it shuts here. The most critical spot for a door is open it an inch and let it go. Does it shut on its own? Then slam it. Does it pop back open? Nope, it's shutting. We also need to check it when we get it back to where it's actually sitting permanently too. Don't just assume because we're on level ground here that it's not unlevel where it belongs. Big picture stuff, making sure that the spring cartridge in here is working. It is. All right, we also need to order a power cord for this because the ground is broken off. So I'm gonna go ahead and watch it make temp and make sure everything else is good with it. But yeah, we gotta order that power cord. Got it plugged in, but these Danfoss controllers on the Delfield units, they start in a defrost. So I can only imagine it's the same on this one too. So we're giving it about 5 minutes. We'll let it turn on, then we'll watch the box come down to temp. Okay, the unit's now running. Condenser just started, compressor started. So now we're gonna wait for it to come down to temp. Another thing that I'll point out too is that, look at this. This is the process stuff, so keep that in mind. This is kinked. So if someone puts their gauges on there, they're gonna think it's off on low pressure when it's really just pinched. So gotta be careful about that stuff. Oh, look, the condenser fan motor has a reverse startup. True does this. It starts up the opposite way to blow dust out of it, and then it goes the right way. So when you stick your hand right here, there's a lot of air moving, and it feels like the air is blowing out, which is the wrong way. Grab a piece of paper, a tissue, a napkin, something. Look. It's not, it's just it's moving so much air, it feels like it's going the wrong way, but it's sucking that air. So prove things, you know? If you feel like it's going the wrong way, prove it. Put a piece of paper there. Is it blowing out or is it sucking in? So it is going the right way. It's just moving such a high volume of air right there in that one spot that it's hard to tell what direction it's going. All right, when we got here, this is how we found the box. You had the evaporator, you had the drain funnel. It was all frozen with ice, but down at the bottom, right? And you had hot air entering the bottom because the way the trap was. But we shifted the other way, and this is how we fixed it. So now the hot air, we moved it, so we created a P-trap. The hot air tries to go in the drain, but the standing water in the drain, because we made a trap out of it, stops the hot air from entering the box. But then gravity allows the water to drain out, and then it overcomes this air, but then there's always standing water sitting in that drain. All right, we just satisfied at basically -2. I did turn it a little bit warmer. I'm gonna turn it just a little bit colder, but all right, we started up. It has about a 5-6 degree differential. Condenser fan motor started up, and I believe it's running in the opposite direction right now. I think it does this every cycle. So let's see if it turns the condenser fan motor off. There we go. Now it's slowing down. stopping, and it's gonna go the right direction and actually draw air through. So that's the typical operation on these guys. 5-degree differential came up to about 3-4 degrees, then turned back on. We can set it just a wee bit colder maybe, and that's it. We're gonna put the cover on and tell them to keep an eye on it. So this was a really fun one, actually. It's funny when I think, like, I don't go planning making these videos. I'm not like thinking like, hey, this is what I want this video to have in it. They just kind of present themselves. And this one I think turned out to be a perfect apprentice series video, which in reality, when I think about it, when I do these apprentice series videos, I mean, in a way, like all my videos are the apprentice series videos, because they're not, like, I don't have the intentions of making these videos. Like, I happen to just be filming what I'm doing and just kind of explaining things. So whatever, I don't know, just a random thought. But this was interesting. I'd never seen ice like that. And you guys got to see like how I worked through that problem. I did not know right away when I saw that ice what that would be. Like, I didn't know the problem. I just, like I said in the video, just worked my way through it. Okay, let's start getting rid of the ice. But first we observe the ice. We note the way that the ice is. I noted that it was rounded and soft. Like, same thing goes for like a walk-in freezer. When you have a walk-in freezer that's iced up, a lot can be learned about the ice patterns. And that's the same on this. Like, it looked like the ice was constantly having warm water running over it. And that was the case. The coil was clear of ice. So the defrost was working. The defrost clock was working, which is actually just all in the control. And it was eliminating, the defrost or the ice or the frost on the coil. But then as that would drip off of the evaporator coil, it would run down the ice that was already started below it. And that's what made it rounded out and rough. And so the first thing I did was observe everything, just kind of look. I mentioned that I didn't want to just like start blasting the drain out like it was a plugged up drain, because I wanted to prove the problem instead of inadvertently fixing the problem. I went through, we found that the real problem was that the drain line had been pushed behind the drain pan, but that wasn't even the problem. When it was pushed behind the drain pan, that little fitting had turned and it no longer had the P-trap that was built into that design. And that P-trap prevented warm air from entering that box. That warm air going into that freezer that was at -1, -3, whatever it was, that warm air was, basically freezing and causing the ice buildup. And so it was very peculiar the way that I saw it, because there was ice built up in that funnel below the drain pan or below the evaporator coil, but it wasn't over the drain pan itself. And that's because the warm air was keeping that from freezing. So the warm air was coming up, and it was just a vicious cycle. And it was all because the drain line had been pushed behind the drain pan. Now, in a perfect world, I would have loved to have completely pulled out that condenser unit, taken that little screw that I found, put it back in its spot, clamped the drain hose where it was supposed to be. But it wasn't really practical because it was really difficult for me to get my hands behind that condenser to even, I had to use needle nose pliers to kind of hold the drain line from a distance and try to lift it up while someone pushed the drain pan, my apprentice, on the front of it, and then drop it down into the pan. It was just so tiny inside that box, and it just was rather difficult. But it's really cool when you can actually prove a problem. I love proving an issue. And while that day, this was yesterday, today is, I don't know, what is today? Saturday, January 4th. So that was Friday, January 3rd. It was a really bad day. Just work was just really a pain in the butt. But that one thing was the highlight of my day, was that service call. I genuinely love these challenging service calls, because usually when you have a challenging, interesting one, when you figure it out, it's a really cool feeling. Like it's like a dopamine release to figure out what caused that problem. And it was really neat. So I really enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys did. Maybe you picked something up from it. That's the whole thing. Like, these videos never started out with an intention to make educational videos or anything like that. Inadvertently, making them for my employees, I kind of stumbled upon making them public. And then here we are, many, many years later. Let's see, I started these in 2017. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. We're going on 8 years. That's kind of crazy. Really bizarre. Never planned on it. Thank you so much for coming along for the ride, however long you've been here. So it's really awesome. If you're interested in supporting this channel, the easiest way to support this channel is just watch these videos from beginning to end. That really is the easiest way. You can support it financially if you want to do so. You can go to my website, hvacrvideos.com, where we have merchandise available, some hats, some stickers, beanies, that kind of stuff. We have sweatshirts and t-shirts, but the sweatshirts and t-shirts are kind of on closeout. When they're gone, they're gone. I don't plan on bringing those back. But the hats and beanies and stickers, those will stay for the foreseeable future. But that's hvacrvideos.com is my website address. So go check it out, help support it. My wife ships and packs the merch and stuff. It's kind of become a family business. So it's a great way to help support the channel. You can also support the channel by going to truetechtools.com. If you want to purchase any tools, anything you've seen me use in these videos, a good majority of the stuff that I have, the tools that I have, I've purchased from True Tech Tools. So go check out truetechtools.com. We have an affiliate program set up with them. If you use my affiliate link, big picture, one word, you get a discount at checkout. I get a small commission from that. So that's another great way to help support the channel. You can also support the channel via PayPal, Patreon, YouTube channel memberships. Those are all different ways that you can make monthly commitments to the channels if you so choose to do so. There's links in the show notes of this videos for all those different methods. So yeah, that's it. I really do appreciate you. Thank you so very much. One last ask that I have of you, please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and share these videos with anybody that you think would be interested in them. It's a great way. I'd love to spread this channel and grow its reach. I have some ideas for 2025. Here's the problem. I am overworked and I don't have any more time. That's my problem. It's really hard to sub out the editing of these videos because the person that edits the videos has to be able to catch mistakes. And when I say mistakes, you know, for the most part, I leave mistakes in by design, but sometimes I'll catch myself saying something wrong in the video and I'll stop and then re-say that phrase. So I need someone that can catch those clips. So it's really hard for me to find an actual editor for my videos. Plus I have massive OCD, so I'm like very particular in the way that I do things. I want to grow the reach. I want to do all kinds of new ideas. It's slow to do that for me. Like for instance, delivering merch internationally. You don't know how many years, I mean, literally for 8 years, people have asked me to deliver merch internationally. And it's such a daunting task. It really is, incorporating that into my website. I'm winging this. I genuinely don't know what I'm doing with social media. I don't know what I'm doing with my website. And it was really difficult to create the website that we created. And I did use someone that helped me create the website, but finding someone that's a specialist in WordPress and WooCommerce specifically that can take charge, you know, like, and I'm rambling at this point in time, but anyways, like I need someone that can take charge of things. I need someone that I have to give minimal input to that can just do things the way that I want them to be done. So like, I'd love to have international merch. I'd love to have, translations that were like accurate, not like the free ones that YouTube does that don't translate right. Like I'd love to have my videos dubbed. That'd be really awesome, but it all takes brain power from me, and I literally don't have a single moment in my life to dedicate any more brain power to anything. I have all sorts of ideas. I'd love to start posting on my HVACR Tools YouTube channel again that I created like 4 years ago, right? I have another channel, if you didn't already know. It's called HVACR Tools. And we did like 3 or 4 videos where I let the overtime guys kind of make videos with me too. But that became difficult because it requires so much more of my input, and I just don't generally have any more time. Plus, on top of that, I'm running a normal refrigeration business that is a daunting task too. So like, I need so much help in my life to be able to like help me do this stuff. So if you guys know anybody that can help me with any of those tasks, I also need a general manager for my refrigeration business. I mean, there's so many different things that I need because I'd like to be able to step away a little bit from the refrigeration business and focus more on content. My passion in general, I love making these videos. Like that was never planned, but here we are and I love it. I love interacting with people. I'd like to start doing like on-site consulting where I go to people and go to companies and like do ride-alongs and stuff like that. Like that sounds really awesome, but I can't just give up on my normal YouTube videos. I can't give up on my normal refrigeration business. So there's so many things I want to do, and I'd love for 2025 to be that year, but I need help. I need lots of help. So if you guys have any suggestions or you have any ideas, feel free to shoot me an email to hvacrvideos@gmail.com. It'd be much appreciated. But also share these videos. That'd be great. Help the channel grow. I really do appreciate you. Thank you so very much, and we will catch you on the next one.